Hey guys, in this video, let us learn to perform CRUD operation with MYBatis from a Spring Boot application. Before jumping into the application, let us understand about MYBatis and the features of MYBatis. MYBatis is an open source persistence framework. It is not an ORM framework like Hibernate. In case of MYBatis, we will be working with native SQL queries of the appropriate database. MYBatis is an open source persistence framework. It is not an ORM framework like Hibernate. In case of MYBatis, we will be working with the native SQL queries based on the database. There are few features of MYBatis. MYBatis provides support for custom SQL, stored procedures and advanced mappings. You can have control over the SQL queries because you will be writing the native SQL queries in your program. MYBatis also supports complicated search queries where the search criteria is dynamic and paging of results. Similar to an ORM framework like Hibernate, MYBatis also supports lazy loading, join fetching, caching, runtime code generation and inheritance. MYBatis helps to run analytical fetch queries, that is like summation, aggregation. If you want to perform these kind of operations, MYBatis is the best choice. If you are having a simple domain model and if you want to perform operation using the SQL queries, use MYBatis. If your domain model is complex, go in for an ORM framework like Hibernate. Now let us get started. Let us now jump into the application. Let me open Spring Tool Suite. In our application, the domain model that we will be using is product. I have completed the basic setup and created the skeleton code that is needed for our application. Let me open the application. Let me open pom.xml. We need to add the dependencies that is relevant to MYBatis. Let me show it to you. File, new, Spring Starter project. Click next. The dependency that we need is MYBatis Spring Boot Starter. So you need to select MYBatis framework. Our database is MySQL. So you select MySQL driver. If you are creating a REST API, you need to select Spring Web. In our case, we will be working with a standalone application, so we don't need this. So these are the two dependencies that you need to add to your application. Together with that, you need to add MYBatis dependency, which is not available in Spring Tool Suite. So you have to go to the browser, search for this dependency and add it to your application. Let me show it to you. Search for MYBatis Maven. Select the first result. Use the version that is downloaded very often. In my case, I have used 3.5.6. The usages is 217. Now let me go back to the application. This is my pom.xml. These are the two dependencies that we have selected using the wizard. And this is the dependency that I have taken from the internet. Okay. Let me open the model class. If you are working with MYBatis, you don't have to add any annotation in the model class. If you are working with Hibernate, you will be using annotations as an @entity, @table, @id, @column and so on. In this case, when you are using MYBatis, it is mandatory that you need to create the table first. The column names can be same as that of the property name or it can be different. If it is different, you need to do the mapping if you are performing select operations with the database. Okay. These are the properties of my product class: product name, product ID, price, brand, category. Of course, we need to create a table with all these properties. The next layer is the service layer. Let me open the service interface, iProduct service interface. We will be performing CRUD operation. So based on that, I have added the methods add to insert, get by ID, get all, get by brand, get by lesser price to retrieve, update product and delete product. And this is the implementation class for that. This class is annotated with @service. The next part is the repository interface. Let me open iProduct repository. If you have worked with Hibernate or JPA, you know that it is mandatory that your interface should extend JPA repository or CRUD repository, and this interface should be annotated with @repository annotation. We will be using the inbuilt methods of spring-data-jpa to perform CRUD operation with the database. But in this case, it is not mandatory. This class should be annotated first with @mapper annotation. Now, we need to write the appropriate queries to persist the data in the database. As I told you, here we will be using the native SQL queries. Based on the operation you are performing, the appropriate annotations are available. As in, if you want to perform insert, so the annotation is @insert. If you want to perform @update, the annotation is @update. If you want to retrieve data from the database, the query is select. So obviously, the annotation is going to be @select. Now let me add the methods of iProduct service over here. Every method should be annotated with the appropriate annotations to perform the operation. The first method is add_product. So the appropriate annotation is @insert. You are also seeing an example over here, @insert. Provide the proper SQL query that you usually write while connecting with the database. Insert into the table name, column names, values. Okay, within these values, you need to provide values for each and every column. In our case, for the method, we are passing the domain model name product. So technically it has to be product.get product name, product.get product ID, product.get price. It is enough that you pass the instance variable name. Automatically it will go and call the appropriate getter methods. In our case, our add_product method is taking product as parameter. It means I need to retrieve the values from the product instance variable. Product.get product name, product.get product ID and so on. But it is enough that you pass the property name. Automatically it will go and invoke the appropriate getter method. As in, if I pass product name, it will go and call get product name. If I pass product ID, it will go and call get product ID. If I pass price, it will go and call get price. Okay. Now let us add this method. Within this, we need to write the proper native SQL query. Before that, we need a product table. Let me open MySQL command line. Password is root. Show databases. Use YT Spring. Let me add the command to create the table. So in the product table, I have added product underscore name, product underscore ID, cost, brand and category as the column names, which is totally different from few of the properties of the product class. In the product class, we are having it as product name, product ID, price, brand and category. In the product class, we are having it as product name, product ID and price. Here I have used underscore just to show you how to do the mapping between the properties and the column names. Now the table is created. Describe product. ID is auto increment, so we don't have to provide value for the ID. Now let us add the SQL query. Insert into product. We need to pass the column names. Product underscore name, cost, comma brand, comma category, values. We need to provide values for these 4 columns. So use the expression language hash, curly brace, product name. So automatically it will go and call the get product name method of product class, comma hash. The second one is not cost, it is price. The property name is price, the column name is cost, comma hash brand, comma category. Okay, this is for insert method. Let us move on to the next method, update product. It should be annotated with @update and pass the SQL query. You can see the example given over here. Update user set name equal to hash name. If you notice here, they have given the domain model as parameter, just like in our case. So if you want to update multiple properties of your domain model, then you can use the same query by passing all the properties which you want to modify. In our case, I just want to modify the price. So the annotation is @update, within which update, the table name is product, set cost is equal to, cost is the column name, hash price. Price is the property name, where product underscore ID, which is the column name, equal to hash product ID. Product ID is the property name. So you have to be extra careful. You should know how to do the mapping. Whenever you are writing the native SQL, you need to use only the column names. So in our case, the column name is cost, the column name is product underscore ID, and the property names are price and product ID. Automatically the values will be taken from the product object that is passed as parameter. Okay. The next method, add delete. And now see the example for delete query. Delete from users where ID equal to. So same thing, we also have to write it. Delete from product where product underscore ID equal to hash pass the product ID. Okay. The remaining 4 methods are to retrieve the data from the database. So in this case, you need to add select annotation. See the example for select. Select star from table name where ID equal to. It is just for get by ID. So let me add the annotation and pass the SQL query. Select star from product where product underscore ID equal to hash product ID. When you are working with select query annotation, you are trying to retrieve the data from the database. In our case, the property names are not same as that of the column names. So the data that is retrieved will be for product underscore name, product underscore ID and cost, which is not matching to any of the property that is there in the product class. So if the property name and the instance variable names are same, the mapping will happen automatically. It will populate the product object and will return one product object in case of get by ID. In case of get all, it will automatically create a list, add the products to the list and return the list. But if the property names and the column names are different, it is mandatory that we need to do the mapping. So for that, we need to add one extra annotation as @result. What is the column name and what is the property name? Let us add 2 attributes. The first one is the property name, product ID. The corresponding column name is product underscore ID. We are having 3 columns. So let us go in for the annotation as @results, within which we will pass one by one. This results is an array of result. So let me add this within curly braces, end curly brace close, comma, the next one. Property name is product name, column name is product underscore name. Similarly, the third one, property name is price, column name is cost. That's all. Okay, now we will move on to the next method, get all. So it is also going to have the same thing just like the previous method. Only the query will vary. Select star from product. Next, get by brand. Again, the same code except that change the query to where brand equal to hash brand and the last method. If you don't do the mapping, what will happen is it will return null value for those properties. In this case, explicitly let me comment it, where cost is equal to hash price. In this case, what I am expecting is while returning the result, it will return value only for category and brand. It will not return the value of product ID or product name or price because they are not mapped. Now let us go to the product service IMPL, AutoWire product repository, private I product repository, product repository. Okay. Let us call the methods one by one. Product repository dot add product by passing the product instance. The next method, I'll copy this, dot update product, delete product. You can have the return type as product or an optional of product. Get by ID by passing the product ID. Product repository dot get all. Then product repository dot get by brand. Product repository dot get by lesser price by passing the price. Okay. All set now. Let me go to the main class. The main class should implement command line runner, override the run method, and auto wire iProduct service. At auto wired. Now let us create a product object. Product is equal to new product. Let me check whether I am having a parameterized constructor. Product is not imported. I am using a parameterized constructor, but the problem is it is also having product ID as parameter. In our case, product ID is auto increment. Okay. The first parameter is the product name, price, brand, and category. Now call the add product method, product service dot add product by passing the product object. Let us add two more also. I have added the values. Now together with this, let us also call get all method, get all dot for each, using method reference system.out :println. So the coding part is complete. The next step is we need to add the configuration details in the properties file. I have already added it. The database name is YT Spring. Okay. Now let us run the application. Select the main class, right click, run as Spring Boot app. This unsupported class version error is because of my Spring toolsuit. I am working with the older version, that is why. Let me go to window. Let me select the project, right click, build path, configure build path, libraries, select it, edit, alternate JRE, install JREs, add, standard VM. I want to add Java 17. This is inside C drive program file Java JDK 17. Okay, click finish. Now select JDK 17, click apply and close. Select JDK 17 and this will become Java. Okay, click finish. Apply and close. Now select the main class, right click, run as Spring Boot app. It's throwing me an exception. Mapper method add product has an unsupported return type. When you are adding an object to the database, it will not return anything. If you are working with Hibernate or JPA, obviously after adding it will return the object itself. But in this case it will not. We have given it similar to that, so that is why it's giving an error. Change the return type of add product to void and also update product. Change this also to void. I need to remove this. Let me remove the return statement. I'll change this to void. In the service layer also, let us have the return type as void for add and update method. Void. Save all the errors are gone. Relaunch your application. Yeah. See, the application ran successfully. It has added the products to the database and returning me the list of products. Let us check first in the database. Select star from product. If you notice, laptop is added twice because in the first run itself, after adding it, it is trying to return a product object it was not able to return the product object, it threw the exception. So that is why you can see this laptop being added twice. Okay. Now let me call the last method, get by lesser price. I'll command all this, get by lesser price by passing 30,000. Let me run the application. Okay. I am not getting any output. Why? Because the SQL query is wrong. Go to iProduct repository where cost is less than price. Okay. Rerun your application now. Now you can notice here. Now see the output. Product name is null, product ID is null, and price is 0 because the column names are different from the instance variable names. So that is why it is mandatory that you need to do the explicit mapping. So I hope it is clear. So this is how we perform CRUD operation using MYBatis from a Spring Boot application. That's it. Thank you.